Jen here, and I have layout number 1 for the Mad About Mini Pads series that is starting today. There are a bunch of people in the list down below that you can follow along, and everybody is using their mini pads. So 6x6, what else is there? 6x8, 8x8, 2x2. There's lots of other sizes besides a 12x12 pad of paper. And so that's the goal, is just to pull out all of those smaller pads and get them used up. And I definitely have a lot of them, so this is an appreciated series for me. I think I'm pretty good about not hoarding these paper pads because I really do enjoy using this size, the 6x6 especially. Yeah, I think I'm pretty good about it, but I do still have a lot of them. And I know I've gone through them before and done sort of a de-stashing video, I think a couple of times, where I've just taken my pads, even my larger 12x12 pads, and just pulled out papers from the pad that I didn't think I was going to use and sort of de-stashed some of them and kept the pads that I liked the most, I guess, or the ones I thought I could get the most use out of, and then given away a bunch that were sitting there in my stash for a really long time. I like to kind of go through my stash a couple times a year, and every time I feel like I go through all of my paper pads and I will get rid of stuff, especially if you get a pad of paper of any size where maybe you have multiples of each pattern. I've come to learn that if it's been in my stash for a long time and I haven't used any of a certain pattern, it's probably not my favorite pattern. And so I'm okay getting rid of one of them if there's two, or even two of them if there's three repeats of the same things. So anyways, I don't know why I'm explaining that all to you, other than I feel like I do have a large stash of 6x6 paper pads especially, but I also think I'm pretty good now at knowing exactly what I like in a mini paper pad. And I do really like them, especially the 6x6 size. I love that the patterns are smaller. So like this heart one, for example, or the coffee mug one, they're just tinier versions of the 12x12 papers. But I like that with that smaller version, you can create a lot of layers with them, which is what I'm going to do here. You can have them kind of peeking out in a little bit tighter layers, but the smaller pattern means you can still see what the shapes are, what the patterns are. You could read these hearts even if I had tucked them in more than I did. Same with the coffee cups. I just kind of like those smaller sizes. I think it's really fun to mix those patterns, and yeah, that is my plan for this particular layout. I think my favorite thing with paper pads, mini paper pads, is just to do one big cluster that's a whole bunch of layers, and you get a ton of different patterns, a ton of different colors, and you just kind of tuck things in. And so that's what I'm doing for my first layout this week, is just my go-to design, I guess you could say, which is exactly this, just tucking things in. And especially when I'm using the scraps. So the papers that, oh my goodness. I don't know what the cat is doing. Probably the kitten actually is doing something, but that was a loud crash. So yeah, good times. It's always an adventure when you have kittens. But this paper pad is the Heart and Hustle pad from Amy Tangerine. And when I was putting together my How to Kill a Kit with Style kit for January, I was thinking about the theme for the month, which is hot beverages. And so I was looking through all of my papers for anything that had coffee cups, teacups, anything that kind of screamed hot beverage. And I found that red piece of paper with all the coffee mugs on it. And then I realized as I was going through some stuff that I also had a bunch of scraps from this same 6x6 paper pad. I had obviously pulled out a bunch of pages and put a layout together, but I still had a bunch of the scraps that were large enough that you could use them again. And so I decided I would go ahead and put a little mini kit inside, like a page kit inside of my larger kit that is just these Amy Tangerine papers. But I knew I also had the stickers to go with it and this iris container, which normally is with all of my die cuts and embellishments. I knew I had a bunch of die cuts. I don't have any from this particular collection, but as I was going through that iris container, I realized that I actually had a lot of 6x6 paper scraps that I was keeping from this paper pad and a couple others that I have of Amy Tangerines. So I just took the entire iris container and turned it into a page kit, which works out really good because not only is it for How to Kill a Kit with Style, it's also Baby Got Scraps this month. And since most of that is scraps, I figured I could go ahead and create a layout. I could go ahead and create a layout just using all of the scraps for Baby Got Scraps. The whole kind of point of that series is that you have your one 12x12 full piece of paper as your background, or whatever size you might be creating your layout as, and then everything else that you use, all the other papers you use, are scraps. And here you can see I have this clear sticker sheet as well, and I've used quite a bit of these stickers. So none of the sheets are full. There are some that are basically empty, and so I kind of consider that to be scraps as well. So I pulled those out and put them together with everything that was in the iris container, and I didn't pull out the actual 6x6 paper pad because obviously those are full sheets and not scraps. I wanted to make sure I was trying to use everything that was in that iris container first. In this layout though, I did pull out that white paper with the blue hearts. So I have one full 6x6 in this layout, and then everything else is scraps, including the coffee cup paper. It kind of looked like a full piece, but it actually had a strip that was about probably, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch that was taken off of the bottom. So it was also a scrap. So I think I did pretty good. I got a whole bunch of paper on there. I cut a few things from the little kind of cut apart sheets that you saw to create some embellishments. So that all came from scraps as well, which is really good. And I've got a couple of the stickers on there. I did put the mugs onto some white cardstock and then cut them out that way because I have so much pattern and they're clear stickers, so they weren't really showing through very nicely. So I needed them to be a little bit more solid. And I did pop one up with some foam just to give a little bit of dimension because everything here is kind of paper so far. And so if you can pop some things up, then you get a little bit of shadow, and that kind of thing can just help make it a little bit more interesting. I also added the title that says Wake Up because this was sort of like our morning coffee whenever we are at the little red cabin that we go to. We tend to head down to the local coffee shop in the mornings to get some fresh coffee and wake ourselves up. So I grabbed that title and a couple of the little embellishments that were around it. So there was a star and some dots and an arrow, and I thought I would just cut that off of the piece of paper or the backing that it was on, because there's only a few pieces of that like foam word sheet left. And so I just grabbed everything that was close by and decided to use all of them. So those, I guess, are my embellishments to some of the things that came with that title. And then I splattered a little bit of gold because I put some gold hearts on there, also from the Amy Tangerine sticker sheet. There's gold writing on the mug. That's kind of that gold foil. And so I felt like I needed to bring a little bit more of that into the layout in different places. So I have 2 little gold hearts in 3 clusters and then the gold splatter. But I needed a bit of extra texture or something. And of course, at first I thought, well, I'll just add sequins because that's definitely a go-to for me. But I just found, believe it or not, when I was packing up and putting away all of our Christmas stuff, I found my little, what do you call this? Container, I guess, of enamel dots. And so I thought, I'm going to pull those out and see what I have in there and put some enamel dots. So something a little bit different that I just haven't been using that often because I didn't have it unpacked. I also found those clips, these paper clips that are coffee cups, and I do kind of shop one around a little bit, but I couldn't really find a place that I liked where I thought it kind of sat nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and put those into the How to Kill a Kit with Style kit and see if I can get them used up on another layout before the end of the month. And that's kind of it. That's all I'm going to do. There's lots and lots of pattern and color. And so I don't feel like I need to add a ton of embellishments or a ton of other little fussy things to it. I just really like how much white space there is. And then those bright, bold pops of color and a few little sprinklings of the gold and that kind of thing. And yeah, that's it. I think it works. I also created a sketchy border around the whole layout with my black Sharpie just to kind of give it a frame, make it feel like that giant photo cluster wasn't just floating there and, it kind of grounds it for me. And then I'm going to add a string up here at the top and kind of make that little cluster look like a banner. I don't think I intentionally meant for it to be a banner, but that's how it looked. So that's what it's now becoming. And that's it. That is my layout for this month. This is going to be such a fun series. So again, definitely hop down below and check everybody out. If you came here from somebody else's channel, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. Click subscribe if you haven't already. And thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. We'll see you again next month. And until then, happy scrapping. Bye.
Bye. Thanks to me. She button. Tell my channel.